Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Mission Apollo, the official Apollo Scooters podcast. And we're taking a slightly more serious approach today to address a lot of the comments and concerns and feedback that we've been hearing online. Now, at Apollo, we are very customer focused and we want to deliver the best experience possible. But like any fast growing company, we fully acknowledge that there is still a lot of room for improvement and growth. So we have brought on our COO, Nadim, to talk about the state of our customer service experience and detail the steps we're taking to improve. Hello, and welcome to the podcast, Nadim.
Hey, how's it going, Sean?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Thank you for joining me. Now, Nadim, you've been working with us for a little over a year now, I believe, right?
Yeah, I joined March of last year.
Nice. And originally you were kind of focused on optimizing our daily operations and making sure we were working at our most efficient way possible. And so the customer service department has been one of those big projects for you. Can you give us a bit of a summary of what the customer service department was like before? And I mean, I can even expand on that too, being one of those customer service agents, and where we are today.
Yeah, sure. So when I joined in March last year, we were 3, maybe 4 agents, sort of like changed, the headcount had changed a little bit. And we were managing multiple channels. So we had email, phone, and some chat as well. It was, the 3 or 4 agents that were just crunching tickets all like nonstop all day, from early in the morning till late at night, answering like a bunch of requests. So that kind of hasn't changed. It's still the case now, just a much larger operation, more agents, more diverse requests, a larger sort of volume of requests as well. So we've definitely made some improvements to the way things were in the past, and happy we're going to go into those today. But there's still obviously a lot of lessons for us to learn and a lot of ways we can continue to improve as a team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Do you have any stats on how many requests we would receive on average back then versus like now?
Yeah, sure. So 2021, I guess back then, we're getting about 90 requests a day, with about 75% of those coming in as email tickets. As of this year, we're like almost doubled that. We're 167 requests per day, and it's a more even split between chats and emails. And that's important. We'll get into that a little bit later. But it's not just the number of requests. I think it's important to understand the types of inquiries that we're receiving. Yeah. There's definitely been a change in that balance. So I guess last year, a lot of it was just like pre-purchase, as we were a growing company and people were discovering our brand. We had a smaller lineup of scooters, less variation in the types of questions that our agents had to answer. It was just like a much smaller team, much simpler process. And pre-purchase is always much more simple because, we have all those answers. What we're starting to see now, though, is a bit of a change as we increase sales, as we increase, the number of customers that we have. Our warranty is something that we pride ourselves on, and we are very, I think in a lot of ways, very flexible and friendly with that warranty policy. So that means a lot of servicing requests that we get to. Mm-hmm. So you can imagine as the customer base grows, the likelihood that you're going to get a servicing request also grows pretty quickly. So the number of requests is a bit misleading because it's really about how much time it takes to handle each type of request. And really we're seeing that the longer sort of, the requests that lead to longer resolution times, the more back and forth with customers are the ones that we're seeing more of today. And I guess maybe another point here is we're a much larger operation now, a much more complex operation from pretty much every facet of the business than what we were before. So, in the past, and Sean, you can speak to this, it was a very small team. So if you had a question, you just post a message on Slack and, you get a response within 10 seconds. Today, that's unfortunately not the case anymore. We have partners that we work with, and we need to reach out and wait for responses to get back. So there's that instant feedback loop is a bit missing as well. So I think that maybe gives a bit of a picture as to where we were before and where we are today. So a very different company.
Yeah, and I think it's normal. For any growing company, you have to put processes into place, you have to put steps and training, and it's a lot of work. And you touched on, it's basically, I guess, 2 different requests. There's the pre-purchase and there's post-purchase for the most part. And it's the post-purchase that seems to be slowing us down a lot because there's a lot to learn. And I guess this is something we can jump into a little bit more later of getting people up to speed and being able to provide the right answer, the right knowledge, right information, because when people reach out to us, they're expecting to be talking to the experts, and we are supposed to be the experts and help them in that way. One of the big complaints or requests, I guess, that we get is why we don't receive phone calls anymore, though. Because as you said, we used to do phone calls, chats, and emails, and now it's just emails and chats.
Yeah, so phone calls is something obviously we hear quite a bit about. Some customers really want us to call them back. I think it's something that we want to eventually do. I just think it's not really possible right now for a few reasons. Phone calls take a lot of time. It's a very, like, we're trying to move as much as possible to like having as much speed and efficiency in the way that we do business, like the way that we sort of deal with our customer experience requests, and we reserve phone calls for very specific cases. But we found that when we had it open, even last year, it was you have an agent who's on the phone for 30 minutes, 45 minutes with a customer. They have a lot of questions that they want to ask and have answered. And, you start running through, it's not one inquiry anymore. It becomes like, 10, 15 inquiries because, obviously, our customers love our products. They want to talk about our products. We love our product. We want to talk to our customers. We love our customers. So it ends up being a conversation that takes up a lot of time from an agent. So we decided, for that reason, it would be better for the entire customer base if we were to eliminate phone chat. I know some customers really want it back, but we found that we were able to service our customers much faster without phone support. I think, the goal for us is to have every available channel open to customers eventually at some point. So we're really working on securing our email. That's our main channel, getting that locked down, getting chat locked down, and then opening up phones and getting those locked down as well. So something that we're working towards, but I think, at the moment, it's not really possible for us to have.
Yeah. And it's definitely understandable from the customer's perspective. Like, if you see there's a phone number available, it gives a certain legitimacy to the business. I mean, even for myself, even if you're not necessarily going to call them, it gives a certain legitimacy. And when you call in, you have a bunch of questions. From that customer perspective, that one customer is very efficient in their mind, in their way, like to get everything answered right away. But on the other hand, you're going to have, a bunch of other people waiting to pick up the phone. And then you have people waiting on hold, and they're waiting on 30 minutes, 40 minutes. And for the rest of the people, it's not the best experience either.
Yeah, for sure. So an option there is callback, but even with callback, your callback log becomes so large that it's just, you're not going to get through them all on a daily basis, And if we're seeing as many requests as we're seeing now with opening phones, you're going to have, 30, 40 phone calls to make a day. Like I said, if it takes an agent 30 minutes, while also managing your email and chat. So we found that it's just faster for us to get through if it's an email inquiry than it is on the phone, and it services all our customers a bit more equally rather than that one customer that sort of has like all the time of like that agent's like full, I guess, 30-minute block of their day. It's sort of like that agent cannot help anyone else, right? So sort of like working through our queues faster and getting people responses as quickly as possible is sort of what we decided would make the most sense for us and for the majority of our customers.
Yeah, there's definitely been times where I've been stuck in a phone call for almost an hour, and it's great to be able to talk to someone, both agent and customer side. But on the other hand, on the other time, you're looking at the call queue and realizing it just keeps piling up, and
exactly.
It's not great. But on top of that too, like especially if it's a tech support related request, we always have to fall back still to the email anyway, and that's the best channel to do it, because even if someone is describing the issue over the phone, they may not be describing the right thing or the right way, and we need to have that visual evidence and documentation for our side as well, just to provide it to the factory and et cetera, and our technicians. That's another thing that kind of complicates it too.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, if we look at the most common requests that we get from pre-purchase, there are really three categories. You've got discount requests, stock requests, like, hey, is this in stock or not? Or when is this coming back into stock? And like product questions or recommendations. Like phones will only really help with the product questions and recommendations, right? Like for discounts, those are always on our site, and usually we just refer customers to the right place. Or if we were going to create a custom discount for a customer, we need to do that. And it's really easy for us to just do that within our the software we use for answering emails and chats. For stock requests, that's usually we have to check. We always try to figure out if there's any extra buffer stock as well if we're running low on something. So that takes a little bit of coordination. So that's not really helpful for the customer for just waiting on hold. So that's pre-purchase. And then post-purchase, like you said, it's a lot of that is servicing requests. And those, we need documentation. We need to understand what the issue is to properly diagnose it as best as we can. So, videos, photos, all that kind of stuff is really handled through email. So for those reasons, really like phone support helps with some of the requests. But if you look at our most common 6 requests, only like 1, maybe 2 are really like phone support is even applicable to, right? So, so we found that email is really the best way to move forward.
And I think it is important also to note and point out, like, we don't request this documentation or visuals because we don't believe the customer. It's because we need to use it for warranty purposes, for sending it back to the factory. Our technicians need to be able to see it so they know exactly what they're diagnosing and have a better idea, because that is the challenge of remote diagnosis. Like, we don't see the scooter in front of us directly. So it's not a case of us not believing the customer at all. It's just we need to have this documentation for our end too.
Yeah, for sure. And we need to be like, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a product that can go very fast. Safety is like a utmost priority for us. And I wouldn't I don't know if anyone on the team would feel comfortable trying to give a customer a suggestion on something that they might do on their scooter without having getting as much information as possible before making that suggestion. Like, the last thing we want is to recommend something and it be the wrong solution or make the problem worse, right? So we really take our time to make sure that when we're giving a sort of a suggestion for repair or something that the customer should do with their scooter, that we are as accurate as possible with that, so that there's no margin for error.
Exactly. Yeah, it's always better to have it in writing, and even like differences in lingo. Maybe you call something, but we call it something else internally, and so that difference of communication and terminology can be dangerous, I guess, at the most extreme. But it is also important to know, kind of switching here, is obviously not all of our customers have a negative experience. And there are a lot of people who do have positive experiences with us. But of course, the most vocal ones are the ones who are not happy. But what do you think causes this difference in experience with us?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, 90% of our customers have a positive interaction with us, right? Like it's a good number. I think internally we would like to see that go higher. Obviously, we want 100% to be the case. It's not always possible. And sometimes things are within our control. Sometimes things are not within our control, right? So I think really it's a very deep question. And there's like a few different reasons. I think really, like, if I were to break it down to a couple buckets, really, like, you've got from a servicing perspective, that's sort of where we see most of the negative interactions. And I think, that stems from the first level, like a disappointment on the customer's end. You have a product that you rely on to get to work, that you need to use every single day, that you've spent a lot of money on, and you're having an issue, and maybe it's a recurring issue. And the suggestions that have been proposed just haven't really worked. It's maybe gone in for repair, but the issue has been replicated again. It hasn't been able to be replicated and repair. So it a lot of it, I think there is some level of, like, from a product level, there's just it just sucks for everyone involved that a product isn't maybe working the way that it should. That with, coupled that with some servicing dead zones that we have, if you live in a certain parts of Canada or the US, it's going to take a long time for your scooter to get to a servicing facility, repaired, and sent back to you. So, like, that's not really great. I guess we also see, like, some issues from a delivery perspective. We don't control, like, a lot of our distribution now is handled through a third party. So once the order comes in and we've made sure that has, like, made its way to the distribution center, there's, like, a little bit less control that we have there. And we're starting to see some issues with our couriers, just, like, not handling our products with, like, the level of, like, respect and care that we want them to. So we're seeing, like, damaged boxes on arrival. So again, you can imagine how a customer would have such a negative experience. But they've been waiting, maybe it's a pre-order. They've been waiting for a while for that scooter to arrive, and it comes damaged. So dealing with that process, especially if they haven't purchased the shipping insurance, now we're coordinating with couriers. So you're dealing with UPS, and for anyone who has dealt with UPS, that they're maybe not the easiest to deal with. Like, most couriers are not. Their support is a little slow and hard to work with. So that introduces a lot of delays. So I think really those would be some main reasons why, like, customers don't have such a positive interaction with us. And then, like, similar to what I mentioned before, when we really need to, like, check on something, there are delays in getting back to customers. If someone reaches out for a delivery that's maybe should have shipped and hasn't shipped, that's being handled by a fulfillment center or one of our distribution partners, we need to like reach out to them and wait for them to get back to us to give us a status update before we can share that with the customer. Or if it's one of those tricky repair situations, our tech team needs to look at that, diagnose it, make sure that they're giving the right suggestion. So there are some delays, and I think most of the negative experience comes from a level of disappointment with the product maybe not arriving the way that it should or functioning the way that it should, and then a delay in getting back to the customer.
Yeah. Yeah. And the delivery and couriers is a good point too. And we've seen that a lot. And I think it is also important to note that if your scooter does arrive damaged, or like it looks like it's damaged, the box looks like it's damaged, there's a hole in it, it may not necessarily be the best thing just to reject it and send it back right away. Like we do try and protect our scooters as well as best as possible. And I think we are still working on improving the packaging as well. But it's okay to open the box, take a look, check it over, let us know if there is any damage. And whether you purchase the insurance or not, we're still here to help. And we're going to try and make this right for you as best as possible.
Yeah, and we're introducing new things. I can't talk about it too much, but just maybe a teaser. We're introducing new ways to support our customers with the shipping process, especially delivery, anything that doesn't arrive the way that it should. So there's going to be some more information on that coming very soon. But that's something we're also excited to roll out in the coming couple weeks.
Nice. Can you go into more detail about, and you posted about this recently in our Facebook community group, and as a side note, this is very important to us, our Facebook group, and I think we're one of the very few brands actually have a Facebook community group, but it is a great way for us to get feedback directly from the customers, be able to engage and promote a strong community for our industry, for our business. And you posted a lot of, a big post, I think last week now, about the steps we're taking to improve. So can you dive into it again about like what we're doing to improve and to make sure the customer experience is better all around?
Yeah, for sure. So I alluded to a couple different challenges, and maybe what I'll do is I'll talk about the challenge first, and then what our solution or what we're trying to do to make that to turn that around. So obviously challenges. There's a lot. So there's some that are related to specifically the staffing from a hiring, training perspective, making sure that we have the right team in place. So we sell really complicated products. They're very different parts, different types of issues that we would experience with them. The same component might fail in different ways on the different products. So it really requires a very specialized understanding of our products to handle those types of issues. So training can be challenging. We've invested in resources to make that less of a challenge, to decrease the ramp up time it takes for a new agent to join and really start answering some of those more complicated cases. But I think even on like an earlier, like from a more proactive level, that's all starting in the factory. So now that we have our own production line in place, we're standardizing our components, we're standardizing the way that we build our scooters. We have better QC at the factory level from a component. Like before, it was sort of just like a QC of the finished product. Now we're QCing our components. Like we know that our components that are going into creating that finalized scooter are like very high quality. And they're not going to break or have any issues. Plus more visibility and documentation. Really, that's going to drive down our incidents and defect rates significantly. So that's something that we're doing from a more proactive level. And then also like the way we design the scooters, so smarter products, more features, more connectivity. That's going to let our agents understand the issues, monitor component degradation and performance remotely, so that we're streamlining the diagnosis process. So rather than, we want to really move away from sending photos back and forth. We want to be able to open up a dashboard, find your scooter in our dashboard, understand, okay, there's drop off in the battery performance, and then, be able to fix that issue based on the data that we're seeing, rather than, asking a customer to arrange tests. Like that's not really an effective use of their time, right? So I think from that level, there's a product challenge as well, and we're really making strides to improve that. We continue to invest in our internal knowledge bases and our external ones as well. So having courses, we have courses in place for new agents that join to make sure that they're able to train as quickly as possible. We also outsource our overnight support, and we work through our tickets 24/7. So that helps us always be engaged with our customers. So that's really helping us manage the ongoing support volume as well. Because another point is when we're spending time training a new agent, that's an agent that should be answering tickets, that's spending that's taking their time away from that. So you're actually decreasing our capacity in the hopes of adding new capacity. So really trying to eliminate the agent training, having that synchronous training in place, moving to more asynchronous training is really going to help us maintain our capacity while we add new one rather than, losing some. Mm-hmm. And then finally, I guess from like a people challenge, we have a tiered approach, the way that we handle customer service. So all of our inquiries go into tier 1. And tier 1 agent's job really is to triage, understand the issue, provide a solution, or escalate the ticket to another tier that's more maybe just has a different area of expertise. So our original plan, at least, was to hire everyone into our tier 1, and then from there progress them onwards. But we found that it's been difficult to move people between tiers because there's a lot of pressure on the tier 1 still, right? So it's hard to move people onto a different tier because you're sort of like, that first tier isn't even beefed up enough. So we've switched that approach. We're now hiring directly into the different tiers. So it's a small change, but really will help us manage the volume. That, along with better forecasting methods that we have in place now to make sure that we're correctly staffed across the board, are definitely going to help from a people sort of challenge. From a operational challenge, like there's an operational side of this as well. So the support tools that we currently use are not great. We're looking to improve them always. So a lot of customer support software is out of the box. And we have very specific use cases at Apollo, especially regarding servicing, warranty, that kind of stuff. A lot of e-com is really focused on like low value goods, quick returns process, in and out. It's just like a lot of like, get it in, get it out. Returning something is like a very easy thing. Our inventory is much more challenging. We have components that are specific to each models. We have spare parts, accessories. The scooter is a high value product, so returns process is much more complicated. They're heavy. So it's a bit of, just like not having the right tools in place to set us up for success. So in the past, we were using Zendesk, and that was causing us challenges. We've since made a switch to a new software called Gorgeous. And while Gorgeous has been really helpful in a lot of ways, it's coming with its own challenges, most of which are for chat. So customers don't see this, but on our end, we don't really have a dedicated chat view on Gorgeous. We only really see the top 5 chats in the queue. So it's like a little bit of those images of like an iceberg or something, where we just see the top and we don't really see what's happening. So it's hard for us to react and dedicate more people to chat to make sure, like, to shift the team and make sure that we have a good distribution of live agents on chat versus email to support volume influxes and stuff like that. So don't have the most consistent chat system in place. And I think we've been correctly called out on that on a few occasions. So we're looking to improve that and change that as well. So I think that's one thing. And obviously, some people don't know, but Sean, you probably know, not enough automation. That's something that I talk about a lot at Apollo, really thinking about how we can like just do things faster, have a computer do it for us rather than do it ourselves. So right now, almost every single ticket is touched by an agent where it shouldn't be, right? So putting in like self-service rules, directing customers to the right resources where they can get the answers that they need, empowering them to sort of like, educate themselves a bit more on their scooter, become better scooter owners and stuff like that is really important, and saves them the time of having to wait for an agent to get back to them. So really, that's another key area for us to improve in.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff you touched on there. And if I can go back, maybe we can expand on this. So hiring is part of the process, and automations as well. When hiring new people, what are we looking for when we're hiring for these specific tiers? This is kind of new information for me as well. What do we look for when hiring for these specific tiers? And what's like the biggest challenge in getting them up to speed? You touched on it a little bit in the courses and stuff, but how long is that process even?
Yeah. We're making changes pretty quickly on the customer experience team, really trying to adapt as much as possible. So that's probably why you haven't heard of it yet. But no, there's, I guess, like, I would say specifically our tier 2 team, which is our technical support team. I think that's where the biggest challenge is, right? Like, you need to have a very deep understanding of the product. It's like, there's electrical systems in place, there's mechanical systems in place, hydraulic systems in place. Like, it is a very complicated product that require, and then for someone to be handling inquiries that are very sensitive, especially ones where something might fail, we really need to make sure that they are very confident in their knowledge of those systems, and how a scooter works, and then how it might fail, and what are the correct suggestions to improve, right? So, and we're always launching new products, we're new models, new versions. So that documentation is continuously being updated, but the amount of documentation is increasing. The city, the older city model, the new city 2022, that's a completely different scooter. So a customer reaches out with a city problem, they're not the same, right? So it's hard to, it's been a bit difficult to make sure that our agents that are coming in now have the time to really go through such dense material and so much of it. Whereas some of our more experienced agents that have been here for longer have been there from the beginning. So they, anytime a new model has come out, they've been able to update their knowledge of that, versus someone coming in who's new. It's sort of it's a lot to handle at once. So giving them the time and the space to manage that is really difficult. For tier one, we really look for people who are resourceful, quick, and then just sort of are able to quickly take in all the information that a customer is giving us, make sure that they've internalized that, understand really what the issue is, and then decide on what to do next. Can I solve this problem? What's the best way to go about this? How can I get this resolved as quickly as possible for the customer? Did I really understand what they are reaching out about? They usually handle more of the volume. So we want them to be able to do that process really quickly, but also accurately. And then also understand, okay, this is something that needs to be escalated. So they really need to be aware of the escalation guidelines. I find that our tier one team is really effective. They're quick. They do all of that, but it's a different skill set in tier one than in tier two, right? So
right.
And then our third tier is more so for cases that maybe are just taking way too long, or they're just sort of something that's very sensitive that requires a lot of back and forth with the customer, where it's really we need to give a very personalized experience to that customer from a customer experience perspective. That's what our tier 3 does. And they need to be, they need to embody all of those skills, right? So our tier 3 agents tend to be our most experienced ones.
Yeah. And it's a challenge to it in hiring people, because the electric scooter industry, just as a whole, is still very new. We can't exactly go out and find other people, and even within the microcosm of Montreal and in Canada where we are, to find people who have that experience with electric scooters, before Apollo, because it is just such a new industry in general. So a lot of that is training. And as I said before, people come to us, they expect us to be the experts, and we need to be the experts. And we're working on training programs to give a little bit of insight to how it was before, when, I was back in customer service and I was one of 3 people. Every time a question would come in that we didn't know the answer to, we'd have to send it off to Elwa, our CTO, to get his feedback on it and give us the answers so that we could respond to the customer. We would have our own basic training, but there's still a lot to learn, and you don't want to give the wrong information, because even the smallest thing can go wrong.
Yeah, for sure. And we're seeing that also from our repair technicians as well. It's really hard to hire repair technicians. And yeah, so again, it's a very difficult product. There's not that much expertise in it. It's hard to find people with previous experience, specifically with the electric scooters as well. So it's got its challenges, but we anticipated those. That's why we invested in the courses. That's why we have our technical course. That's why we have all our repair videos. So really, we've invested as much as possible into increasing the amount of resources available for both us, our team, and our customers as well, to really understand how electric scooters work and how to fix them.
Yeah, and I hope people are starting to, see all the different levels of service and content and repair knowledge that we are trying to share. Obviously, there's YouTube videos that we do a lot. There's the how-tos and the articles on our support website. We're increasing our mechanic network, and I believe we're also working on expanding our dedicated repair service centers too, right?
Yeah, for sure. So that's part of one of our initiatives to eliminate those dead zones, those servicing dead zones. So we have the repair center in New York, our repair center in Montreal. We've got our Apollo Tech crew, which is sort of a team of the community mechanics who are able to solve most issues. And then we have new servicing center launching on the West Coast coming soon as well. So keep an eye out for that. And we have our repair shops that are our partners that, they go through a process with us to make sure that they fully understand our products. And then we send customers that way. So really, like, if we can decrease those dead zones, speed up the repair process, get customers back on their scooters faster, that's a win-win-win for everyone, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess one of the last questions I have here is, we hear a lot of people, they reach out, they get a fast response, initially, but the follow-up is a little bit slower. We kind of touched on that and the reasons why and what's blocking us, what we're doing to improve it. But is there anything that customers can do to improve the response time in general, but especially for the tech support related issues?
Yeah, I think for the tech support related issues, it's really like sending us the information that we need as quickly as possible. So pretty much every support inquiry that we get, we need the order number for that. Like right off the bat, that's a really easy way to get us the information that we need so that we can pull up all the details to understand like what the model is, when it was purchased, is it still under warranty, where are you located, all of those things we can get from the order number. And then specifically for tech support stuff, documentation, like as many photos and videos as possible right off the bat, really speeds up the process for that. So I think that's a really easy way from a support side to like get the ticket into the hands of the right agents as quickly as possible and give them as much information so that when they respond, they're not responding asking for more information. They're responding with a solution or like a sort of a next step that you should be taking. So that's a really easy way to get a faster response, I would say.
Okay. Yeah. And another complaint that we've seen a lot is people seem to think that if they don't get a response right away, we are intentionally ignoring them. And obviously that's not the case, because that would be very poor business practice. And obviously we would not be where we are without our customers. So it's not that we're intentionally ignoring them, but it may have something to do with the way our inbox is sorted and maybe how many times they're reaching out to us. Can you touch on that again?
Yeah, for sure. So we handle our tickets sort of in like a first in, first out. Not quite, but very similar. So a customer that like has a simple issue might take 5 minutes to solve. Unfortunately, like they're getting slotted into our queue, right? So we have no way of prioritizing faster resolutions and getting those out of the door and then spending time on sort of things that take longer. So customers might get frustrated with having to wait in our queue. That's totally understandable. And really for us, the solution there is just getting through our queue as quickly as possible so that we can get to them. We have cases where customers have sent multiple messages and threads. Like the other day, I was just checking through our tickets and we had someone open a bunch of incognito tabs so that they could open our chat and then just like send 10 messages. Obviously, I understand that we have a really passionate community and a lot of people they cannot afford any downtime on their scooter. So it's not like something, I'm sure that person didn't want to do that. They felt like they had to. And that sucks for us because we weren't able to, answer them as quickly as they needed to on the first time. But what that ends up doing is that hurts them more than anyone else because they're pushing themselves further and further down our queue, right? Like the best thing to do is to submit the ticket and we will get to it as quickly as possible. We never ignore our customers. We would never do that. That's just wouldn't be a thing that would fly at Apollo. No one on the team would want that. Everyone on the team's main focus is to support our customers and make sure that they have all the information that they need in the quickest, in a timely manner, right? So ignoring stuff is not something that happens at Apollo. But I would just say that once you have sent a message or have reached out in one of our threads, it's better for you, it's better for Apollo, it's better for everyone else and all of our other customers that you just be patient and wait for that response to come in. We do respond within the same day. So you should get a response. If you don't, I would just urge some more patience for that because you don't want to be in a scenario where you're getting caught up, getting pushed down the queue. Because a lot of the customers, some customers that we see on social, they're posting, they're saying, hey, Apollo is ignoring me. Well, we look into it and we see that they've created multiple threads and they've just been getting pushed further down our queue. So it's been an unfortunate situation, but that is a good way to not get a response from us, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's usually sorted by the most recent message from the customer, and then it's sorted in our inbox by the oldest waiting. So the more messages they send in, especially within the same thread, it just keeps bumping them down. Exactly. But another thing too is if people could give us as much information ahead of time, like you just kind of said there, but even just more information about what your request is, because we have a lot of chats, emails, requests that come in and say, hey, can you call me? Or, hey, I have a question. if you can give us all that information ahead of time, that helps our response time too, I believe.
Yeah, for sure. And some stuff that we're like launching in the next little while is, we're really expanding our offering at Apollo. So thinking about, rewards program, shipping protection, the Apollo app, all the new products that we're launching. So we are putting in, as part of that initiative, is continuing to improve every day, give our customers more and more. We're going to be increasing, essentially revising our help desk, making sure that is up to date and more accurate information. And we are launching a new self-support tool, which is going to make accessing resources much easier. And it's also going to help funnel incoming tickets based on the type of inquiry that we're receiving to the right agent. So we're going to get much more information on what are the issues that our customers have, and getting them, skipping that process of triaging that tier 1 process, going directly into tier 2 if that's the case. As well. And then also it's a very smart tool. So we're able to suggest, based on the symptom or the issue that you have with your scooter, we're able to suggest improvements on how to fix it. And then, we can create that flow. So a lot of these common issues that we have, we already know the solution for. Think about something going wrong with the app, and it's really just like, you need to change the setting or reset this. Those are things that, the tool is smart enough to identify what those issues are, help you with suggest a solution. And then if that works, great. And if that doesn't, continues to suggest solutions until you get to the point where, okay, this isn't an issue that is very common. We haven't identified this before. It may be the first time that we've experienced something like that happening. Get you in the hands of an agent who's going to be able to work through that with you and get you the best solution possible.
Amazing. That sounds great, and yeah, it all sounds very promising, and we're all very optimistic for the future. And we do want to stress that we are very invested in our community, in our customer base, and obviously, again, we would not be here without them. This is why we're so focused on the customers, and we just want to make sure that everyone knows that we are listening. We're here. We want to make sure that you are receiving the help and service that you deserve and that you expect, and that you expect from us. So that's all I had for the questions on my end. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add, Nadim.
Yeah, just a quick summary. I mean, really, there's a key, 5 key projects that we're working on to improve the overall customer experience. So that all starts with better products from the beginning, making sure that we're staffed correctly, upskilled, and properly trained, having better support tools and more access to all of the knowledge that we have, sharing that with the customers as well, and giving them, the ability to see that, access it, basically. Expanding our repair servicing network through all the different initiatives we talked about. And then the final one is, we take our customers' feedback seriously, right? So we see every single feedback response for every single ticket sent by a customer, review those. We take the feedback that we get there, both the positive and the negative, into account, and we try to improve from there. And as you mentioned, our scooter community on Facebook, that page is very helpful as well. So really, we build our business around our customers. And I think that's really important to keep in mind as well.
Awesome. Yeah. Sounds good. Thank you very much, Nadim. It's been a pretty quick podcast this time, but we just wanted to take this opportunity to really address, everyone kind of face to face, I guess, and really detail the steps we are taking to improve, because it is very important to us, and everyone that has supported us is very important to us. So, we hope this is a sign, for the future. We're working, we're improving, we're listening to your feedback. We appreciate everyone's feedback, and continue to give us that feedback, please, both, negative and positive. And please, if you do have positive experiences with us, please share that with us too, because we do want to hear that, because it is kind of a sad fact of social media and just reviews in general. You're always going to hear the negative ones first. No one is ever going to go online and say, I had no problems with Apollo, and I'm very happy with my scooter. So if you do have those experiences, please share it with us too, because we do want to hear those. We love hearing that. But
yeah, for sure. And the team loves it. Anytime we see a good review, we share that internally as well with the team. I think it goes a long way in helping them understand that they're making an impact as well. And that's something that's fulfilling for them. So the more that you tell us about how we do, the better we can continue to serve our customers.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and give us some suggestions as well on the next podcast you want to see, and ride safe.
Bye.